The invitation. The crystalline spires of New Geneva gleamed in the setting sun as Ambassador Sarah Chen studied the holographic message for the 100th time. The Galactic Concordatel's invitation to Earth seemed perfect, too perfect. After 2 centuries of ignoring humanity's attempts at contact, their sudden interest set off every warning bell in her diplomatic instincts. "Play it again, HFY," she commanded her eye assistant. The hologram flickered to life, showing High Speaker Zaxalian's imposing figure. His iridescent scales caught the light as he spoke, mandibles moving in what their xenologists claimed was a gesture of peaceful intent. "People of Earth, the Galactic Concordat extends its hand in fellowship. Your species has shown remarkable progress, and we believe the time has come to welcome you into our ancient alliance. We offer knowledge, technology, and protection. All we ask is peaceful cooperation and mutual respect." Sarah muted the recording, her dark eyes narrowing. 25 years in the diplomatic course had taught her that nothing came without a price, especially not from a civilization that had watched humanity struggle through its early space age without so much as a greeting. HFY. Compile all known Concordat first contact protocols with other species over the last millennium. Processing, Ambassador, the AI responded. Warning. Data is limited due to Concordat information restrictions. Show me what you have. The office wall transformed into a massive display, showing the timeline of the Concordat's expansion. Sarah's breath caught as patterns emerged. Every civilization they'd welcomed had followed a similar path. Initial prosperity, followed by gradual resource depletion and economic dependence on the Concordat. The door chimed, interrupting her analysis. "Enter," she called, not taking her eyes off the display. Admiral James Harrison strode in, his weathered face grave. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" he asked, gesturing at the timeline. Sarah nodded. "They're not looking for allies. They're looking for vassals. The Security Council meets in an hour. What's your recommendation?" Sarah stood, smoothing her formal diplomatic uniform. "We accept their invitation." Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "You can't be serious." A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Oh, I'm very serious. But we accept on our terms, not theirs. And while we're smiling and negotiating, we prepare." Prepare for what? For the moment, they realize humanity isn't as naive as they think. She turned to the window, watching as ships from a dozen Earth nations move through the atmosphere like silverfish. "We've spent 2 centuries being ignored by the galactic community, Admiral. 2 centuries building our strength, developing our technology, and most importantly, learning to stand united." Harrison moved to stand beside her. "The Concordat's fleet is vast. If this goes wrong, it's going to go wrong." Sarah interrupted. "But that's exactly what we're counting on. They expect us to either reject their offer and remain isolated, or accept it and slowly submit to their control. They don't expect us to have a third option." She activated her secure comm unit, connecting to the highest levels of Earth's government. "This is Ambassador Chen. Implement Protocol Trojan Horse. Authorization Chen Alpha 79 Delta." Across the planet and throughout the solar system, hidden facilities hummed to life. In asteroid bases and underground bunkers, ships that officially didn't exist began powering up their systems. 2 centuries of paranoid preparation were about to pay off. "Send our response to the Concordat," she ordered HFY. "Tell them Earth is honored by their invitation and requests a formal delegation to discuss terms of admission." As the message transmitted across light years, Sarah turned to Harrison. "Admiral, how long until the 7th Fleet can be ready?" "The official 7th Fleet. 2 weeks. The real one. It's been ready for years." Sarah nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Good, because we're about to teach the Concordat a lesson about underestimating humanity. They think we're going to be grateful for their table scraps. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when you try to cage a species that spent its entire history preparing for this moment." The sun finally set over New Geneva, casting the room in shadows. In the darkness, Sarah Chen smiled, knowing that across the vast expanse of space, the Concordat was about to learn that humanity had never been alone by circumstance. They had been alone by choice, using their isolation to prepare for exactly this moment. The game was about to begin, and Earth was playing for keeps. Hidden agenda. The Concordat's diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace with all the subtlety of a peacock's display. Its crystalline hull caught Earth's sunlight, fracturing it into 1,000 rainbow patterns, a calculated show of technological superiority that made Sarah Chen suppress a smile. In her experience, those who needed to showcase their power usually feared losing it. From her position aboard the EDS Artemis, Earth's premier diplomatic vessel, Sarah watched the alien ships approach. Behind her, a dozen of Earth's finest analysts monitored every emission, every energy signature, and every communication from the Concordat vessel. They weren't about to miss any detail, no matter how small. Ambassador, Lieutenant Maya Patel called from her station. We're detecting significant scanning activity from their ship. They're probing far deeper than diplomatic protocols allow. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. Let them look. They'll only see what we want them to see. Earth had spent decades perfecting its deception technologies. The Concordat's scans would reveal an Earth that appeared technologically impressive enough to interest them, but not advanced enough to threaten them. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing High Speaker Zaxxalian in all his alien glory. His iridescent scales seemed to ripple with barely contained excitement. Ambassador Chen, we are honored to meet humanity's representative in person. The honor is ours, High Speaker, Sarah replied, bowing precisely the amount their cultural briefings had indicated, not an inch more or less. Earth awaits the opportunity to learn from the Concordat's vast experience. As the formal greetings continued, Sarah's neural implant buzzed with encrypted updates from Earth's intelligence network. In the shadow of Saturn, hidden sensors were tracking 3 cloaked Concordat vessels, conducting detailed surveys of the solar system. Near Mars, their probes were analyzing human mining operations. They were mapping everything: resources, defenses, infrastructure. The High Speaker's voice brought her attention back to the conversation. We have prepared a detailed proposal for Earth's integration into the Concordat. Our analysts suggest a 10-year transition period, during which we would establish permanent advisory positions in your major governmental institutions. Advisory positions. Sarah kept her tone curious, interested. Inside, she was counting the red flags. Merely to help smooth the transition, Zaxxalian's mandibles clicked in what their xenologists had identified as a gesture of reassurance. We would also need to establish several military bases, for your protection, of course. A galaxy can be a dangerous place for emerging civilizations. Sarah's neural implant buzzed again. The hidden sensors had detected quantum communication bursts between the Concordat's cloaked ships. They were coordinating something. That's a generous offer, High Speaker, she said, buying time as her analysts decoded the transmissions. Though I admit, the speed of the proposed integration concerns me. Surely a more gradual approach. Ambassador, Zaxxalian interrupted, his tone shifting subtly. You must understand that the Concordat's protection is contingent on full compliance with our integration protocols. Recent events have made the galaxy unstable. We would hate to see Earth left vulnerable. There it was, the threat wrapped in concern, the velvet glove over the iron fist. Sarah's implant delivered the decoded transmission. The Concordat ships were mapping strategic strike points across Earth's infrastructure. They were preparing for military action if diplomacy failed. I understand completely, Sarah said, allowing a hint of relief to color her tone. Earth would never want to appear ungrateful. The High Speaker relaxed visibly, clearly believing he had successfully cowed the primitive humans. Excellent. We can begin implementing the first phase immediately. Our advisory teams are already prepared. A priority alert flashed across Sarah's neural feed. The cloaked Concordat ships had begun moving into attack positions, hidden from conventional detection methods. They were hedging their bets. If Earth refused their terms, they would launch an overwhelming first strike. But Sarah had expected this. It was, after all, exactly what the Concordat had done to the last 3 civilizations they'd invited to join them. The difference was, those civilizations hadn't spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. "High Speaker," she said, her voice taking on a warmth that didn't reach her eyes. "Before we proceed, I wonder if you might clarify something for me." She gestured, and her ship's AI displayed a holographic map of the solar system, including the positions of the Concordat's hidden ships. Zaxxalian's scales lost their luster. "I don't understand. There must be some mistake." "No mistake, High Speaker. We've been tracking your ships since they entered our system." Sarah's warm diplomatic mask fell away, replaced by steel. "Now shall we discuss the real terms of our relationship with the Concordat, the ones that don't involve treating Earth as another conquest?" The High Speaker's mandibles clacked in agitation. "You dare." "We dare quite a lot, actually," Sarah interrupted. "And you're about to find out exactly how much. Because while you've been busy planning your invasion, we've been implementing plans of our own." Throughout the solar system, hidden sensors tracked the Concordat ships as they began powering up their weapons. But Sarah Chen didn't flinch. Everything was proceeding exactly as humanity had planned. The real question was, how would the Concordat react when they realized they weren't the hunters, but the hunted? Operation Shadow. Deep within the asteroid belt, in a hollow space that officially didn't exist, Admiral Harrison stood in the command center of humanity's true fleet. The massive cavern-housed ships that no alien race had ever seen. Vessels that combined 2 centuries of human innovation with reverse-engineered technology from crashed alien scouts that had ventured too close to Earth over the years. "Status report," he commanded, watching as hundreds of stealth vessels powered up their systems in perfect silence. "Shadow Fleet at 98% readiness, sir," his XO, Commander Diana Rodriguez, reported. "All ships maintaining quantum stealth fields. The Concordat sensors are still blind to our presence." Harrison nodded, his attention fixed on the tactical display showing the Concordat's ships surrounding Earth. They thought they held all the cards. 3 advanced warships against what they believed was a primitive civilization. The arrogance was exactly what humanity had been counting on. His secure quantum comm crackled. "Admiral," Sarah Chen's voice came through. "The High Speaker is about to make his decision. Are we ready?" "Shadow Fleet is in position," Harrison confirmed. "Though I still think we should have shown more of our hand earlier, kept them from getting this close." "No," Sarah's voice was firm. "We need them to commit fully to their attack plan. Half measures won't work. We need to break their power so completely that no other alien race will think of Earth as easy prey again." On the main display, the Concordat's flagship was launching what they thought were undetectable probes toward Earth's major cities. The aliens' arrogance was almost painful to watch. Every probe was being tracked, its data feeds intercepted and modified to show exactly what humanity wanted them to see. "Signal from Ambassador Chen," Commander Rodriguez announced. "The High Speaker has rejected our terms for equal partnership. They're moving to their backup plan." Harrison allowed himself a grim smile. "Right on schedule. Begin Operation Shadow. Phase 1. Throughout the asteroid belt, humanity's hidden fleet began to move. Quantum stealth fields, developed through decades of research, kept them invisible not just to sensors, but to the very fabric of space-time. The Concordat ships, believing themselves hidden, had no idea they were being surrounded. "Sir," Rodriguez reported, "the Concordat vessels are powering up their main weapons. They're targeting Earth's major defense installations. Let them think they have the initiative," Harrison ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols. Wait for the ambassador's signal." On the diplomatic channel, they could hear the High Speaker's voice, dripping with condescension. "Ambassador Chen, your defiance is futile. Accept our terms now, or face the consequences of your primitive arrogance. Sarah's response was calm, almost amused. High Speaker, I don't think you understand. We're not refusing your terms out of arrogance. We're refusing them because we have better options. You have no options. The alien leader snarled. Our ships are in position to. To what? Sarah interrupted. To launch an attack from coordinates we've known about for hours. To use weapons we've been studying since you entered our system. Please, High Speaker, did you really think we spent 2 centuries in isolation just developing social media and reality shows? Harrison watched as the tactical display showed the Concordat ships beginning their attack run. Their weapon systems were charging, shields raising, all according to the combat doctrines that Earth's intelligence services had spent decades studying. All ships, Harrison commanded, prepare for Phase 2. Weapons hot, but do not disengage stealth systems until my mark. The Concordat flagship launched its first strike, a massive energy burst aimed at Earth's supposedly crucial defense center in Nevada. The beam passed through what appeared to be a shield failure, striking the facility directly. On their sensors, it would appear as a devastating blow. In reality, the beam had passed through a sophisticated hologram, striking an empty desert. The real defense centers were scattered throughout the planet in locations no alien scan had ever detected. Sir, Rodriguez called out, the Concordat ships are launching their secondary attack wave. They're targeting what they think are our planetary shield generators. Harrison nodded. Let them waste their ammunition. Ambassador Chen, are you ready to show them what humanity's really capable of? The turning point. High Speaker Zaxxalian watched with satisfaction as his ship's weapons struck Earth's defensive installations. The primitive humans had dared to reject the Concordat's generous offer, and now they would learn the price of defiance. His flagship's sensors showed devastating damage to key military facilities across the planet's surface. Your defense systems have failed, Ambassador Chen, he announced, mandibles clicking in triumph. Surrender now, and we may still show mercy. On the view screen, the human diplomat's expression remained unnervingly calm. High Speaker, I have a question for you. In all your scans of our system, did you ever wonder why we kept Saturn's rings off-limits to mining operations? Zaxxalian's scales rippled in confusion at the apparent non sequitur. Your primitive mining restrictions are hardly relevant now. Actually, Sarah interrupted, they're very relevant. Admiral Harrison, if you would. The space around Saturn's rings shimmered. What had appeared to be ordinary ice and rock began to move. Thousands of objects were emerging, dropping sophisticated cloaking fields that had fooled the Concordat sensors for hours. Zaxxalian's blood ran cold. Where there had been nothing, now there was a fleet. Not the handful of primitive warships his intelligence had reported, but hundreds of advanced vessels unlike anything in the Concordat's database. Impossible, he whispered. Your species has only achieved spaceflight in the last 2 centuries. 2 centuries you spent ignoring us, Sarah corrected. 2 centuries we spent preparing. Did you really think we wouldn't notice your pattern of peaceful integration across the galaxy? Every species you've absorbed, every civilization you've subjugated, we studied them all. We learned from their mistakes. On his tactical display, more ships were appearing. The asteroid belt was coming alive with hidden vessels. Earth's moon shimmered as concealed hangar bays opened in its surface. What had seemed like a defenseless planet was transforming into a fortress world. Admiral Harrison. Sarah's voice carried an edge of steel. You may proceed with Phase 3. The human fleet moved with devastating precision. Quantum torpedoes, weapons the Concordat had fought, were centuries beyond human capability, streaked through space. They struck not the obvious targets, but precisely calculated weak points in the Concordat ship's defenses that only decades of careful study could have revealed. How? Zaxxalian demanded as his flagship's shields buckled under the assault. How could you have developed all this in secret? We had help, Sarah admitted. Every scout ship you sent to study us, every probe that crashed in our territory. We learned from them all. But mostly, we had motivation. You see, High Speaker, humanity has a long history of preparing for worst-case scenarios. When we looked to the stars, we hoped for friends but prepared for conquerors. The Concordat's support ships were already crippled, their weapons disabled by targeted strikes they never saw coming. Human vessels moved with impossible stealth, appearing and disappearing at will, striking from angles that seemed to defy physics. "Sir," one of Zaxxilion's officers called out in panic. "Their weapons, they're not just advanced, they're specifically designed to counter our defensive systems." "Of course they are." Sarah's voice was almost gentle now. "We've had decades to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Every time you sent a ship to observe us, you thought you were gathering intelligence. In reality, you were helping us prepare for this moment." Zaxxilion watched in horror as his flagship's defenses failed one by one. Not through overwhelming force, but through precise, surgical strikes that spoke of intimate knowledge of his ship's systems. "You have two choices, High Speaker," Sarah continued. "You can order your remaining ships to stand down and open negotiations for a true equal partnership between Earth and the Concordat, or..." She let the alternative hang in the air. Around his flagship, Earth's fleet had finished neutralizing the Concordat's support vessels. Hundreds of human ships now hung in space, weapons primed, their true capabilities still largely unknown. "Your species," Zaxxilion managed, his voice hoarse. "You're not what we thought you were." "No," Sarah agreed. "We're not." Now about those negotiations. In the silence that followed, as the High Speaker stared at his shattered fleet, a fundamental truth became clear. Humanity had never been the primitive species the Concordat assumed. They had been a sleeping giant, carefully preparing for this exact moment. And now they were awake. New dawn. 1 month after the confrontation in Earth's solar system, Sarah Chen stood before the galactic Concordat's Great Assembly. The massive chamber, designed to humble visitors with its scale and grandeur, now held a very different atmosphere. Representatives from 100 alien species watched her with new eyes, not with the previous condescension reserved for emerging civilizations, but with the wary respect given to a power that had fundamentally changed the galaxy's political landscape. High Speaker Zaxxilion, his scales now a subdued shade of gray, addressed the assembly. "The treaty before us today represents a historic change in the Concordat structure. For the first time in our history, we welcome a new member not as a protectorate, but as a full and equal partner." Sarah kept her expression neutral, but she could feel the ripples of shock and disbelief moving through the chamber. Behind her, Admiral Harrison stood in his formal uniform, a quiet reminder of the force that had necessitated this change. "Some of you," Zaxxilion continued, his voice carrying a note of hard-learned humility, "have questioned this decision. You suggest that one demonstration of military prowess should not alter 10,000 years of tradition." He paused, his 4 eyes scanning the assembly. "To you, I say this: Earth has demonstrated not just military strength, but a level of strategic thinking and technological advancement that we fail to recognize. Their achievement is not in defeating our ships, but in hiding their true capabilities for centuries while preparing for every contingency." Sarah stepped forward to address the assembly. "The Earth Alliance does not come before you seeking dominion or revenge. We come seeking what we have always wanted: true partnership and mutual respect." She activated a holographic display, showing the new trade routes and defensive partnerships Earth had already established with some of the Concordat's smaller members. "In the past month, we have demonstrated our commitment to fair trade and mutual defense. Several member worlds have already benefited from our quantum shielding technology. Technology we developed not to conquer, but to protect." The assembly stirred. Many representatives had been shocked to discover that Earth's technological advances weren't limited to weapons. Humanity had developed everything from revolutionary medical treatments to faster-than-light communication systems, all hidden behind a carefully maintained facade of limited capability. "But there is something else you should know," Sarah continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Something that may help you understand why we chose to reveal ourselves as we did. With a gesture, she changed the holographic display. It showed a massive fleet of ships, but not Earth's fleet. These were Concordat vessels, positioned near the borders of multiple independent star systems. We found these battle plans in the Concordat's military database. Plans for the systematic conquest of every independent civilization in the sector. The High Speaker has already acknowledged their existence and agreed to their immediate termination. The chamber erupted in chaos. Many of the smaller member species had suspected such plans existed, but had never had proof. Now they were seeing evidence of how close they had come to losing their independence. Earth could have exposed this earlier. Sarah's voice cut through the tumult. We could have turned member species against the Concordat leadership. Instead, we chose to demonstrate our strength in a way that forced change without causing the Concordat's collapse. She turned to face Zaxxillion. Because despite its flaws, the Concordat has brought stability to much of the galaxy. It doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be reformed. The High Speaker inclined his head in acknowledgement. And that reform begins today. The treaty before us not only welcomes Earth as an equal partner, but restructures the Concordat itself. No longer will we be an empire in all but name. We will become what we should have been from the beginning. A true alliance of equals. As the Assembly began their deliberations on the treaty, Sarah received a private message from Admiral Harrison. Shadow Fleet reports all Concordat battle groups are standing down. The old guard is accepting reality. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had achieved what had once seemed impossible, forcing change not through conquest or submission, but through careful planning and the wisdom to know when to show strength and when to show mercy. The galaxy was entering a new age, and humanity, after centuries of watching and waiting in the shadows, was ready to step into the light, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals who had earned their place among the stars. As the Assembly moved to ratify the treaty, Sarah thought about all the generations of humans who had worked in secret, preparing for this moment. They had built humanity's strength not out of fear or aggression, but out of a deep understanding that true peace could only come from a position of strength and mutual respect. The Age of Shadows was over. The dawn of a new era had begun. First contact and deception. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the window of Luna Base Command, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming blue marble of Earth below. The message that had just come through the quantum communications array changed everything. After decades of scanning the stars, humanity had finally received their first confirmed alien transmission. "Play it again," she ordered, turning to face the holographic display where her command staff had gathered. The message flickered to life. A being with iridescent scales and multiple eyes spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Imperial Collective, a peaceful confederation of species seeking diplomatic relations with emerging civilizations. We request permission to enter your solar system with our diplomatic fleet to establish formal contact." Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, head of Xenolinguistics, shook his head in disbelief. "They learned our language perfectly before making contact. The computational power required for that level of analysis is concerning," Chen finished. She'd spent 20 years building Earth's defense forces in secret, preparing for this exact moment. The public knew nothing of the quantum shield generators buried beneath every major city, or the swarms of AI-driven nanofighters hidden in asteroid bases throughout the solar system. "What's the status of Project Prometheus?" she asked, turning to Dr. Maya Patel, their lead weapons researcher. "The quantum entanglement drives are ready," Maya replied, her fingers dancing across her tablet. "We can deploy the entire defensive grid in under 3 minutes if needed. The new AI targeting systems have achieved a 99.9% accuracy rating in simulations." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display showing the approaching Imperial fleet. Their ships were massive, each one nearly the size of Manhattan. But something about their formation troubled her military instincts. "Those aren't diplomatic vessels. Commander James Wu remarked, voicing her concerns. Look at the energy signatures. Those are warships trying to mask their weapon systems. Agreed. Chen activated the command channel to all Earth Defense Force installations. This is Admiral Chen. Initialize silent running protocols. I want every system ready but completely dark. If they're here for peace, they'll never know we were prepared. If not, the next 12 hours were tense as the Imperial fleet approached. They maintained their diplomatic facade, but Chen's analysts detected subtle scanning attempts probing Earth's defenses. What they found would have appeared primitive: scattered radar installations, a handful of conventional satellites, and some basic orbital platforms. The truth lay dormant beneath the surface. 20 years ago, when Chen had first proposed the Earth Defense Initiative, many had called her paranoid. But she'd convinced enough world leaders that humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization might not be peaceful. Better to appear weak while building strength in secret. The Imperial fleet entered orbit with casual confidence, their massive ships casting shadows over major cities. Chen watched as their diplomatic liaison shuttled down to address the United Nations. The being's speech was perfect, its mannerisms carefully calculated to appear benevolent. But Chen had positioned microdrones throughout the assembly hall. They detected the subtle electromagnetic pulses being broadcast, signals designed to interface with and disable defensive systems. Systems the Imperials thought they would find, but didn't exist. They're testing our capabilities, Chen muttered. Preparing for something bigger, she turned to her staff. How long before their main fleet arrives? Maya checked the quantum sensor readings, based on the subspace distortions we're detecting. Less than 6 hours. Then we have our timeline. Chen's voice was steel. Let them think their deception is working. Let them believe we're primitive and helpless. When their invasion fleet arrives, they'll learn humanity's first lesson about Earth. She looked back at the tactical display, where thousands of hidden defense platforms waited in silent readiness. We're never as helpless as we appear. The command staff dispersed to their stations, and Chen allowed herself a grim smile. The Imperials thought they were dealing with a young, naive species ripe for conquest. They were about to discover that humanity had teeth, very sharp ones, and had spent decades preparing to bear them. In the emptiness of space, the Imperial ships maintained their peaceful pretense, unaware that every movement was being tracked by quantum sensors, every communication intercepted and decoded by AIs that had been specifically designed for this moment. Earth appeared vulnerable, primitive, perfect for absorption into their empire. It was exactly what Admiral Chen wanted them to think. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the invasion fleet to spring it. The hidden arsenal. The main Imperial fleet arrived exactly as Earth's quantum sensors had predicted, tearing holes in space-time at the edge of the solar system. Over 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons that could reduce a continent to ash. Their arrival was meant to inspire terror. Instead, Admiral Chen felt a sense of cold satisfaction. They brought exactly what we expected, she said, studying the tactical display in Luna Base Command. Typical Conquest fleet configuration. They're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore. The Imperial diplomatic vessel in Earth orbit immediately dropped its peaceful pretense. Their liaison delivered an ultimatum to the United Nations: immediate surrender and integration into the Imperial collective, or annihilation. They gave Earth 1 hour to decide. How diplomatic of them. Commander Wu remarked dryly. Shall we show them our response, Admiral? Chen nodded, activating the quantum-encrypted command network. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. Operation Lazarus is now active. Execute on my mark. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, massive hangar doors opened silently, disgorging swarms of autonomous fighters smaller than conventional radar could detect. Beneath Earth's oceans, quantum shield generators powered up, their energy signatures masked by the planet's magnetic field. The Imperial fleet advanced with textbook precision, spreading out to ensure no escape craft could flee the system. Their sensors detected only primitive satellite networks and a handful of defensive platforms, exactly what they expected from a pre-FTL civilization. They're launching their first wave, Maya reported, monitoring the quantum feeds. 5,000 attack craft, targeting major population centers, exactly as the simulations predicted. Chen allowed herself a small smile. They're so predictable. It's almost disappointing. She keyed her command channel. All units, execute Phase 1. Let's show them what they're really dealing with. The Imperial fighters screamed toward Earth's atmosphere, their pilots confident in their technological superiority. The first indication that something was wrong came when their targeting systems began to fail. Quantum interference, perfectly calibrated to their frequencies, scrambled their computers. Quantum shields online, Maya announced. City grids activating. Now, across Earth, invisible barriers of twisted spacetime sprang into existence, encompassing every major population center. The first wave of Imperial weapons splashed harmlessly against them, their energy dispersed into quantum foam. The Imperial commander's voice boomed across all frequencies, no longer bothering with translation. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. How can they? Chen cut off the transmission with a gesture. Launch the swarm. From hidden bases across the solar system, Earth's real defensive fleet emerged. Not the clumsy chemical rockets and primitive satellites the Imperials had detected, but hundreds of thousands of quantum AI-driven nanofighters, each one equipped with technology that had been developed in absolute secrecy for decades. The Imperial fighters found themselves surrounded, their sophisticated systems rendered useless by targeted quantum interference. The nanofighters struck with devastating precision, their quantum weapons bypassing shields designed to stop conventional energy weapons. First wave neutralized, Commander Wu reported. 0 casualties on our side. Imperial command ships are launching their second wave. Right on schedule, Chen nodded. Deploy the Leviathans. From beneath Earth's oceans, massive shapes began to rise. Submarine carriers, hidden for years in the deepest trenches, surfaced to reveal their true nature. Each one was a mobile fortress, bristling with quantum weaponry and protected by shields that bent the very fabric of space around them. The Imperial fleet's formation faltered for the first time. Their sensors, finally adapting to Earth's quantum technologies, revealed the true extent of humanity's preparations. Where they had expected to find a helpless pre-FTL civilization, they instead faced an opponent who had anticipated their every move. They're attempting to regroup, Maya reported. Detecting massive energy buildups in their capital ships, they're preparing to deploy their planet-killer weapons. Perfect. Chen's eyes gleamed. Initiate Project Prometheus. Let's show them why you don't threaten Earth. Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum relays activated, creating a web of entangled energy that had taken years to position. The Imperial fleet found itself caught in a massive quantum field, their fastest-than-light capabilities suddenly neutralized. Your move, Chen whispered, watching the Imperial ships struggle against the quantum net. Show us what you do when you realize you're not the biggest fish in the pond anymore. The battle for Earth was about to enter its next phase, and humanity was just getting started. 20 years of preparation were about to pay off, and the Imperial Collective was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating their opponents. The real question wasn't whether Earth would survive. The question was how much of the Imperial fleet would survive to carry word back to their empire about the terrible mistake they had made in threatening humanity. Counterattack. The Imperial fleet's command structure was in chaos. Their supposedly primitive target had revealed defensive capabilities that rivaled or exceeded their own. Worse, their attempts to retreat and regroup were thwarted by the quantum interference net that now permeated the entire solar system. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the Imperial ships tried to adapt their strategies. They're falling back on traditional combat doctrine, she observed, concentrating their forces, trying to punch through what they think is our weakest point. Should we stop them? Commander Wu asked. tracking the enemy fleet's movements. No, Chen smiled. Let them gather. Maya, is the quantum resonance cascade ready? Dr. Patel's fingers flew across her console. Charged and waiting, Admiral. The energy buildup is masked by solar radiation. They won't detect it until it's too late. The Imperial fleet had consolidated into a massive battle sphere, their most powerful ships at the core. Energy readings suggested they were preparing to launch a synchronized blast from all vessels, enough firepower to theoretically overwhelm any defensive system. They still think this is about brute force. Chen shook her head. Lieutenant Rodriguez, are you intercepting their communications? Yes, Admiral. Their command structure is fascinating. Hierarchical, but with distributed autonomy. They're coordinating through quantum encrypted channels, but our AIs are already 3 steps ahead of their encryption. Show me their flagship's location. A red marker appeared on the tactical display, nestled deep within the Imperial formation. Chen studied it for a moment, then made her decision. Execute Operation Hydra. All units, commence attack pattern Delta 7. Earth's forces moved with practiced precision. The swarms of nanofighters reorganized themselves into complex geometric patterns, creating a 3-dimensional web around the Imperial sphere. The Leviathan carriers submerged again, disappearing beneath Earth's oceans. They think we're retreating. Wu noted as the Imperials detected the carrier's apparent withdrawal. Let them think that. Maya, initiate the cascade. The quantum resonance cascade was humanity's masterstroke. Technology it had taken 15 years to perfect. It didn't attack ships directly. Instead, it created a cascading wave of quantum interference that disrupted the very fabric of space-time around the Imperial fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Imperial ships' quantum communications collapsed. Their synchronized weapon platforms fell out of alignment. Most critically, their shield harmonics began to fluctuate wildly. Now, Chen ordered, all units, execute precision strikes. Target their command and control systems. The nanofighters struck with surgical precision, their quantum weapons exploiting microscopic gaps in the Imperial shields. But they weren't aiming to destroy. Each strike instead inserted quantum AI viruses into the Imperial ship's computer systems. Virus deployment at 60%, Rodriguez reported. Their automated defenses are adapting, but slower than projected. We'll achieve full penetration in 3 minutes. The Imperial fleet's response was predictable. They launched their entire reserve of fighters, nearly 50,000 craft, in a desperate attempt to break the quantum interference net. Chen had been waiting for this. Initiate Project Medusa. From their hidden positions in the asteroid belt, enormous structures that had been mistaken for mining installations revealed their true nature. Quantum pulse arrays activated, sending waves of targeted interference that transformed the space around the Imperial fighters into a maze of conflicting gravitational fields. Fighter screen neutralized, Wu announced. 87% disabled. The rest are trapped in quantum eddies. Imperial capital ships are attempting to power through the interference. Chen nodded. Just as the simulations predicted. Maya, deploy the Thanatos protocol. The quantum AI viruses now infecting the Imperial fleet systems activated simultaneously. Rather than attempt to seize control, they simply exposed the truth. Detailed schematics of Earth's defensive capabilities, records of 20 years of preparation, and most devastatingly, proof that humanity had detected their approach long before they reached the solar system. Message incoming from the Imperial flagship, Rodriguez announced. They're requesting a ceasefire. Put it through, Chen ordered. Main screen. The Imperial Admiral appeared, a being of crystalline symmetry and cold calculation. Its multiple eyes focused on Chen with what might have been respect or fear. You knew we were coming, it stated. We detected your survey probes 15 years ago, Chen confirmed. Did you really think we wouldn't prepare? The Imperial Collective has never encountered such resistance. Your technology is what we chose to show you, Chen interrupted. Consider carefully what else we might have developed that you haven't seen yet. The Imperial Admiral's crystalline structure shifted, a gesture Chen's sinologists had identified as profound uncertainty. What are your terms? Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held steel. First, you're going to learn about a concept we humans call diplomatic relations. Then we're going to have a very interesting discussion about the future of your empire. The battle for Earth was ending, but humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage was just beginning, and they were determined to ensure it would be on their terms. The Admiral's Gambit. The ceasefire lasted exactly 6 minutes. Deep within the Imperial flagship, emergency protocols activated. Quantum signals, hidden beneath layers of encryption, pulsed outward to every ship in the fleet. Admiral Chen watched as the tactical display shifted, showing new energy signatures flaring across the Imperial vessels. They're activating something, Maya reported, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. Energy patterns unlike anything in our database. Chen's eyes narrowed. They're desperate, and desperate enemies are the most dangerous. All units maintain quantum containment. Do not let them break formation. The Imperial Admiral's crystalline form shimmered with barely contained energy. You are impressive, humans, more than impressive. But the collective cannot allow such power to exist outside our control. Initiate the Omega Protocol. The Imperial fleet's ships began to change. Crystalline structures emerged from their hulls, growing and interconnecting like a vast geometric web. Energy readings spiked beyond anything Earth's sensors had recorded. They're linking their ships together, Wu realized, creating some kind of unified energy matrix. No, Chen corrected, her voice tight. They're sacrificing their fleet to power something bigger. Maya analysis. The energy patterns, they're creating a quantum singularity. If they succeed, it could tear apart the fabric of space-time throughout the solar system. They'd rather destroy everything than admit defeat. Chen's mind raced. 20 years of preparation, and they'd never anticipated this level of fanaticism. But humanity hadn't survived countless challenges by giving up when faced with the impossible. Dr. Patel, Chen's voice was eerily calm. Remember that theoretical application of Project Prometheus we discussed. The one you said had a 13% chance of success. Maya's eyes widened. The quantum inversion. Admiral, that's never been tested outside simulations. The power requirements alone would drain every generator in the solar system. And if we don't try, none of that will matter anyway. Chen opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is Admiral Chen. All power systems, prepare for total transfer to the quantum grid on my mark. Leviathan carriers, surface and deploy solar arrays. We're about to attempt something unprecedented. The Imperial Admiral's voice crackled through the comm. Your efforts are futile. The singularity cascade cannot be stopped once initiated. Accept your fate with dignity. Chen ignored him, focusing instead on the tactical display. The Imperial ships were now completely interconnected, their combined mass starting to warp space itself. Time was running out. Maya, start the power transfer. Rodriguez, get me a direct quantum link to every AI in our system. Wu, coordinate with the Leviathans. I want every joule of power we can squeeze from those solar arrays. Earth's defensive grid hummed with unprecedented energy. The quantum shield generators beneath every city, the hidden bases throughout the solar system, even the civilian power networks. Everything fed into the growing pool of energy Maya was gathering. Power at 60% and rising, Maya reported. Quantum coherence holding steady. But Admiral, we're seeing dimensional instabilities forming around the Imperial fleet. The space around the Imperial ships was beginning to twist, reality itself buckling under the strain of their desperate gambit. The crystalline structure connecting their ships pulsed with otherworldly energy. 70%, Maya continued. Admiral, we need to act soon. The dimensional stress is approaching critical levels. Chen watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. The Imperial Admiral's voice came through again. tinged with what might have been regret. Your species showed great promise, perhaps in another reality. Now, Chen ordered, execute quantum inversion. Maya's fingers flew across her console, initiating the most ambitious technological feat humanity had ever attempted. The massive pool of energy that gathered surged through the quantum grid, creating a controlled dimensional inversion around the Imperial fleet. The effect was like watching reality turn inside out. The space around the Imperial ships folded in on itself, their quantum singularity cascade meeting the inverse quantum field generated by Earth's combined power. For a moment, it seemed as if two universes were trying to occupy the same space. Field holding. Maya shouted over the strain of overtaxed systems. The cascade is being contained. Chen watched as the impossible physics play out before them. The Imperial fleet's desperate final attack wasn't just being stopped. It was being reversed. Their own energy turned back upon itself in a feat of quantum engineering that would rewrite physics textbooks for generations to come. The Imperial Admiral's crystalline form cracked as he realized what was happening. Impossible. You've mastered quantum inversion. But that technology is merely theoretical. Humanity's greatest strength, Chen replied calmly, is turning theory into reality when our survival depends on it. Stand down your fleet, Admiral. Your gambit has failed. The battle for Earth was about to reach its final phase, and humanity had once again proven that they would not go quietly into the night. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humans was a mistake no one would make twice. Victory and recognition. The quantum inversion field shimmered like a second sun in Earth's orbit, containing the aftermath of the Imperial fleet's failed gambit. Inside Luna Base Command, Admiral Chen watched as the last energy reading stabilized. The Imperial ships hung motionless, their crystalline structure networks shattered, their mighty weapons silent. Final status report, Chen ordered, her voice showing no sign of the exhaustion they all felt after the grueling battle. Maya looked up from her console, dark circles under her eyes, but a smile of triumph on her face. The quantum inversion field is stable. We've contained their singularity cascade completely. Their fleet is essentially frozen in a pocket of altered spacetime. They couldn't restart their weapons now even if they wanted to. What about our systems? Chen asked, turning to Commander Wu. All defensive grids are operational, though running at reduced capacity. The Leviathan carriers are back underwater, recharging their power cells. Nanofighter swarms are at 60% strength and holding defensive positions. Wu paused, checking another readout. Most importantly, our quantum shield network around Earth remains at full strength. The Imperial Admiral's image flickered onto the main screen, his crystalline form showing visible cracks from the strain of their failed attack. When he spoke, his voice carried something humans had never heard from the collective before. Respect tinged with fear. The Imperial Collective acknowledges its defeat, he stated formally. In 3,000 years of expansion, no species has ever. He paused, his crystalline structure shifting in what xenologists would later identify as profound distress. We underestimated you. Gravely. Yes, Chen replied simply. You did. Now shall we discuss terms? The negotiations that followed would reshape the galaxy. From Luna Base Command, Chen led the diplomatic team that would establish humanity's position in the interstellar community. The terms were non-negotiable. Earth would remain independent, its space would be inviolate, and the Imperial Collective would acknowledge humanity as equals, not subjects. But Chen had one more card to play. There's something else you should know, she told the Imperial Admiral as the formal surrender documents were being prepared. What you saw today, our quantum inversion technology, the nanofighters, the Leviathan carriers, that was our defensive capability. You never saw our offensive weapons. The Admiral's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. You have more. Chen allowed herself a small smile. We spent 20 years preparing to defend Earth. Did you think we wouldn't also prepare to take the fight to our enemies if necessary? Let's just say it's in everyone's best interest that those weapons remain theoretical. The impact of Earth's victory rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. The news spread faster than light through quantum communication networks. The undefeated Imperial collective had not only failed to conquer a single planet, but had been comprehensively defeated by a species they dismissed as primitive. In the days that followed, as Earth's diplomatic corps began the work of establishing their new place in the galactic community, other species reached out. Some sought protection, others alliance, all of them eager to understand how humanity had achieved the impossible. In her private office aboard Luna Base, Chen reviewed the latest reports with her core team. The Imperial fleet was being escorted from the solar system, their ships still bearing the scars of their defeat. Earth's defensive systems were being upgraded with new insights gained from the battle, and the first human embassy ships were being prepared for launch to other star systems. They're calling it the Terra Doctrine, Rodriguez reported, reading from his tablet. The idea that technological advancement should be hidden until it's needed. Several other species are already adopting similar strategies. And the Imperial collective? Chen asked. In chaos, Wu replied with satisfaction. Their entire philosophy was based on technological superiority. Now that that's been proven false, their member species are beginning to question everything. Maya looked up from her own work. Admiral, the quantum physics community is still trying to understand exactly what we did with that inversion field. The applications for this technology, they're revolutionary. Chen nodded, looking out her window at the Earth below. The blue marble that humanity had defended so successfully now represented something new in the galaxy, hope for other species who wished to remain free, and a warning to any who would try to conquer through force. 20 years ago, she said quietly, when we detected those first Imperial probes, everyone said I was paranoid for suggesting we needed to prepare. Now look where we are. Where are we exactly? Wu asked. Ken turned back to her team, her expression determined. We're at the beginning. Humanity has proven itself on the defensive. Now it's time to show the galaxy what we can do when we're helping to build something better. She gestured to the star charts showing potential diplomatic missions. We've proven we can fight. Now let's prove we can lead. As night fell over Earth, its cities gleaming beneath their invisible quantum shields, humanity looked to the stars with new eyes. They had faced their first great galactic test and emerged victorious. The Imperial collective's failed invasion hadn't just been defeated. It had announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. And this was only the beginning.